Matt Senfner's Providence Celtics have won 41 games in a row. In last year's 4A title game, the Celtics were down 10 in the fourth quarter.
Touchdown Providence. They have closed this thing down to a 4-point game. It's second down and goal from the 4. Handoff up the middle. Touchdown Providence. They go ahead.
Tonight, Providence goes for 42 wins and 3 titles in a row. It is a nasty night in Normal for the 4A championship game. Welcome to Hancock Stadium, the 4A title game, Providence Catholic against Metamora. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Blaney. Wherever you are at, it is nicer than where we are right now. It is raining hard, it is cold, the wind is blowing. The weather will be an extremely big factor in this game. Providence Catholic is trying to win their 42nd straight football game. They're trying to win their 3rd state title in a row. And if they are going to do so, one of the people they will rely on is running back Louis Medina, number 22. He has rushed for 2,564 yards during the course of this season. He is one of the best backs you will see in this state, and he will be a big cog in the offense tonight. If Providence Catholic decides to throw the football at all, they can go that way too. They have one of the finest quarterbacks in the state as well in Robert Cruz. He has thrown for over 2,200 yards this season, has over 20 touchdown passes, and rarely is he ever intercepted. But Ron Rivera, the weather is going to be a huge factor in this game, and it may turn out to be a great equalizer for Metamora.
Oh, I think it will, Jim. You know, Metamora loves to run some sort of an option-style attack, a wishbone even at times. They've got some terrific guys that run it. Andrew Sanderson at tailback is a terrific football player. He's rushed for over 1,300 yards, almost 16, 17 touchdowns. This kid is a really explosive running back. Jared Grebner, he runs the offense, a good option-style quarterback. He does do some things very well, fakes the ball very good, and does turn the corner and pitch the ball as well. This kid's accounted for over 22 touchdowns, about 1,300 yards rushing as well. So 2 guys that have rushed for over 1,000 yards. This type of weather could favor a running attack.
And they are a running attack with the wishbone. It may look like a wing tee to some of you, but it is a wishbone. To give you an idea of what this weather is like, we all watched a lot of Gilligan's Island when we were kids. Well, we're on the SS Minnow and we're getting ready for a 3-hour cruise because batten down the hatches, it's going to be wet. The ball is going to be on the turf a lot. There's going to be a lot of mistakes that may come down to the team that hangs on the football. Now let's go down to the field for the starting lineups in tonight's 4A championship game between Providence and Metamora.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's the starting defense for Metamora's Redbirds. At left end, number 37, Matt Vogelsang. At left tackle, number 51, Brad Marshall. At right tackle, number 72, David Long. At right end, number 78, Jeremy Droege. At nose guard, number 50, Steve Fisher. At linebacker, number 43, Cody DYKES. At linebacker, number 34, Brian Murphy. Defensive back, number 58, Sam Elbert. Defensive back, number 19, John VANECKO. Defensive back, number 8, Jared ALIG. And at safety, number 14, Jared Grebner. The Redbirds are coached by Pat Ryan. Now the starting lineup for the new Lenox Providence Celtics. Split in, number 14, Ed Olsta. Left tackle, number 78, Tom LENAHAN. Left guard, number 79, Rob STAZAK. At center, number 61, Tim Tehan. Right guard, number 60, Jason KALINA. Right tackle, number 70, Colin Johnson. Tight end, number 84, Tom RIORDAN. At quarterback, number 10, Robert Cruz. At tailback, number 22, Luis MEDINA. At flanker, number 19, David POPP. And at fullback, number 42, Steve MAUGERI. Head coach of the Celtics, Matt Sefner.
Getting ready to watch Providence try and win a third straight state title. Let's go down on the field to Yvonne Simmons.
Jim, as you mentioned, Providence is going for a three-peat. If they win the game tonight, that'll be 42 in a row, and it will tie a state record. They've had 3 consecutive undefeated seasons. And Metamora, they're trying to go for the momentum of the playoffs. Both teams have had easy times in the playoffs. We'll take a look at the map and see where these teams are from. Providence is in Will County. Metamora, located pretty close. Metamora in the semis defeated LaSalle 47-12. Quarterfinals, Belleville 34-0. Riverside 35-13. And then in the first round, they got Normal 28-20. Providence in the first round, Manuka 47-0. Batavia in the second round, 49-6. Kankakee, they got them in the quarterfinals, 42-7. And in semis, Leo of Chicago, 48-14. So we're expecting a pretty rough game here this afternoon. We'll take it back up to you, to Jim and Ron.
You get an idea from that shot outside the stadium just what it looks like here tonight in Normal. And Ron, you have to think with Metamora being a running team that doesn't throw it a lot, this is tailor-made weather for them. This may even up what appears to be a mismatch. On the opening kick, Providence will have to pick it up off the ground. And a big stick and a big stop at the 25-yard line after a short return. That's where Providence will set up 1st and 10 on offense, a 10-yard return. There are the conditions. The temperature is right at freezing. It is raining. There's no snow coming down right now. But also important is the wind is howling. It's blowing from right to left across your television screen. Robert Cruz, the quarterback for Providence Catholic High School. It'll be interesting to see what they try to do in the early going here. The first handoff of the game, it goes up the middle to MAUGERI, and he pitched off the football, and coming up with the ball is Dave POPP. He's out in front of everybody, so on the first play from scrimmage, Providence is able to take it into the end zone for a touchdown. 75 yards of the scoring play. No flags down in the field. The Providence Celtics strike like that.
You know, Jim, I almost wonder if he didn't fumble that ball on the contact, the initial contact going into the line of scrimmage. It's going to be real interesting to see if we got a good replay on that.
Let's take a close look at it. MAUGERI with the original carry, and it bounced right up off his chest.
You know, they might have to look, well, I was about to say look at instant replay to make a ruling, but we don't have that here. That's an NFL thing, and they don't have it there. It looks like he was down on contact, and the ball just bounced up.
MAUGERI gets the carry, and he'll pick up some yardage. The ball actually bounces off of his chest, it appears, when he hits the ground. He appeared, well, you know what? He was not down, Ron, because he was lying on top of the Metamora defender, so he was not on the ground.
You know, that's one of those, Jim, that could go basically any way because his momentum was stopping, even though he did land on a defender. So just a real good break for the Celtics early on.
The bottom line is, it is 7-0 in favor of Providence. We felt that turnovers would play a big role in this game, and lo and behold, it wasn't a turnover, but it was a fumble on the first play. Popp gets credited with a 65-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. 7-0 Providence. So Metamora, just like that, finds themselves behind just 19 seconds into the game. Squib kick into the wind. Picked up back at the 10-yard line. And it's just going to be awfully tough to get any footing in this game tonight. So Metamora trailing 7-0. They'll set up 1st and 10 at their own 22-yard line. Return of 11 yards on the play. Well, that's what you call efficiency, Ron.
Yeah, one play, 75 yards. Again, just a real positive break for the Celtics. Ball bounces up, Popp recovers it, and takes it all the way for the touchdown.
So now Metamora not only knowing they're up against a great opponent, but now finding themselves behind 7-0. The ball's on the turf again. Providence says they have it. And the Celtics do. What a beginning for the Providence Celtics. Tony Pasolano recovers the football. There's been 2 plays from scrimmage so far. A 75-yard scoring play for Providence and a fumble recovery on the Metamora 22-yard line. An unbelievable start for the Celtics.
You know, it looks like that ball's awfully slick. As soon as it hit the quarterback's hands, Jared Graber, it just popped up and was fumbled. Just a real good break again for the Celtics.
Cruz brings them up 1st and 10. That's MEDINA, the lone setback. He gets the call, and he burrows his way into the line. He'll pick up 4 yards down to the 19-yard line. Jeremy DROEGE having the stop on the play. Let's take a look at our starting lineups presented to you by the Country Companies. Cruz and MEDINA, 2 of the best offensive players in the state. And the offensive line, the only senior on that line is the center, Tim Tian. Everybody else a junior except for Tom LENAHAN, who's a 6'1", 255-pound sophomore. 2nd down and 6. Again, it will be MEDINA. Tries to cut back, battles for a couple of tough yards, down to the 15. And one thing that's going to happen is as soon as somebody is wrapped up, you can bet everybody else in the world will be coming in pawing at the football. The Metamora defense. Matt Vogel saying he goes both ways. Jeremy DROEGE, the right end. And the linebackers, DYKES and BRYAN Murphy. In the secondary for Metamora, Sam ELBERT, one of the big hitters at a defensive back position. He ought to be a big hitter wearing 58 in the defensive backfield. 3rd down and 3 for Providence from the 16. Hand off to MEDINA. He's stopped initially at the line of scrimmage and keeps battling his way forward. It does not look as though he got the 1st down, but keep in mind, Providence is heading dead into the wind. It's probably 4-down territory.
Yeah, more than likely, Jim. You know, the interesting thing that we got to really keep an eye on here is the quarterback-center exchanges. The quarterback pulls out early, like we saw Jared Gruber do earlier. There's the possibility of a fumble. So watch for Robert Cruz to stay very disciplined, Jim, and stay under center until he's got a firm grasp of that football before he pulls out to do whatever he's got to do.
4th down, 2 officially for Providence. The ball is resting just outside the 14. They need to take it just outside the 12 for a 1st down. Cruz fakes the handoff. He will roll out. He can run. He lost the handle on the football. It is loose on the turf one way or another. It is going to be Metamora's football. It's actually Academic who recovers it. It looked like Jared Grebner got to it. But a big stand on defense for Metamora early in the game. So they come out of the turnover on their 1st play from scrimmage on offense. None the worse for the wear. Metamora has the ball. They're down 7-0. Just flat comes out of the hand of Robert Cruz.
This is a situation where whoever's got the big hands is going to hold on to that football a little better, Jim.
Pump fakes may not work in this game. Grebner gives off to Andy Sanderson. We're going to see a lot of him. He pushes the pile forward for a couple of yards, and again the ball is on the turf. And again Providence recovers. 2 times Metamora has run offensive plays, 2 times they fumbled it. Pat Dillon on the recovery.
You know what happened, Jim? I don't think it was the center exchange as much as it was Jared Gruber sticking the ball into the fullback's belly and then trying to pull it out of his belly. See, he's trying to pull it back, and there goes the ball. What he was doing was he was reading the option like option quarterbacks do. He read that the fullback was going to be stopped at the line of scrimmage. He tried to pull it out and bootleg around the end. Once you make a decision, you got to leave it in there.
We are 8:57 into this game. We've already had 3 fumbles. The one fumble by Providence, they recovered and took it in for a touchdown. Medina, he takes the ball down to the 12-yard line, and you can take a look at the players as Steve Fisher makes the tackle, and every time the player is on the ground, everybody starts looking for the football.
You know, this is one of those classic battles, Jim. The guy that ends up with the football usually is not going to be the offensive player. Why? Because this thing is definitely slippery. The referee's going to do the best they can to try and keep it dry, but they're going to probably have to stick some of those footballs at the end of each quarter in some sort of a drying mechanism to keep them dry.
2nd down 6. Medina again has plenty of yardage, takes it down inside the 5-yard line to the 3. He's going to be very close to a 1st down, and indeed he has a 1st and goal for Providence from the 3. We may see Medina get 60 carries tonight because
easily
you've got a running back who's gone for over 2,500 yards. Just keep giving him the ball. Just make it simple. Chances are he's going to get a couple of yards every carry.
You know what Metamora is going to have to do, Jim, is they're going to have to basically scrap their basic defense and go to 8 guys in the box. What Providence done is they split the defense by spreading them out with their wide receivers.
Medina will get the carry again, goes toward the goal line, pushes the pile in. He's down near the goal line. No signal from the official as of yet, and the ball will be marked at the 18-inch line.
See what Providence has done, and they've already realized is they split their wide receivers out. You're going to see that Metamora is going to go ahead and try and match up with these guys, which creates gaps and seams for the offense. Easy for the offensive running backs, Louis Medina, to find a nice hole to run through. Again, we see the spread formation.
2nd down and goal from the 1.5 line. Keep your eye on Louis Medina. Providence moves before the snap of the ball. It's going to cost them 5. You may recognize the way Providence is lining up on offense, very similar to what Oklahoma State did when Barry Sanders was there, where they put the fullback very close to the line of scrimmage.
Dead ball, false start on the offense.
And then line up the tailback deep in the backfield and let him pick his hole.
Well, that's what we're seeing right now again from Providence. They're coming out in a spread formation. They've got the fullback up close and let him pick the holes.
2nd down goal from just outside the 5-yard line. Medina off the left side, twists his way down to the 2-yard line. 3rd down goal. Providence does have a pretty good field goal kicker, in case you're wondering. Billy Schull, 12 of 15 on the year with a long of 47. He may need to boot it like it's 47 yards even from there with the way the wind is blowing. That is, if Providence does not get into the end zone and decides to go for a field goal. Ball on the 2-yard line, 3rd and goal. Medina looking for a hole and not finding one at first. He's turned back by the Metamora defense. Medina kept pushing his way toward the goal line. The Celtic players say he got in, but the officials are being non-committal. That is about as close as you could get. Had the wind taking the breath away there, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jim. Watch how Louis picks the hole. He sees he's got a gap inside, clogged. He tries to bounce to the outside, stay behind his blockers. But I'll tell you, Metamora's defense did a terrific job of swarming. Even though it looks like Louis made it, and I believe the referee blew the whistle and called him down at progress.
Providence will go on 4th and goal. Medina, give him 36 touchdowns on the season. Providence leads 13-0. MAUGERI, the fullback, lining up just behind the line. Put on a block there, Ronda to seal things off, and Medina just bounced it outside and walked right into the end zone.
You know who really made a terrific block was number 64, Will McDermott. He blocked down, and and that's what allowed Louis Medina to see that he could bounce it outside for the touchdown.
Schold adds the 1-point conversion. Not a bad kick into the wind. It's good enough. 14-0, 5:40 remaining in the first quarter. Providence has the lead. The broadcast rights to tonight's 4A championship game has been granted to Sports Channel and Intersport Television by the Illinois High School Association. Any rebroadcast of this event without the written consent of the IHSA, Sports Channel, and Intersport Television is prohibited. Jim Blaney and Ron Rivera in a rainy, cold, and windy Hancock Stadium. The 4A championship game, the Providence Celtics have bolted out to a 14-0 lead. They have already recovered 2 fumbles. Actually, they've recovered 2 fumbles by Metamora. They've recovered 1 of their own. They lead 14-0. 2 possessions for Metamora. Their possession time so far in this game, 37 seconds.
Not going to win too many football games like that.
Schultz kickoff. And he'll just try and keep it low and maybe make it drive into the wind. On the return, Grebner is knocked down at the 22-yard line, and that's where Metamora is going to try and, first of all, just hang on to the football. 13-yard return. There's the drive for Providence. They lead 14-0, and the one thing Metamora did not want to do in this football game was fall behind early and fall behind by a couple of scores, and they have done exactly that. The thing working in their favor is there's plenty of time remaining. Handoff goes to Sanderson, and he will hang on to the football, which is the most important thing right now for Metamora. Scott Janik and Khalid Tillman there to make the tackle.
Nice blocking, great cut by the running back, Jim. I tell you, it was a well-designed play. They saw something they could do, and they hit the seam perfectly.
While the rain is still coming down sideways, it's not coming down as hard as it was at the start of the game. And I mean it's coming down sideways. Second down and about 3. Sanderson gets the carry, keeps his feet moving, and takes it all the way out to the 38-yard line. Khalid Tillman there to make the tackle. So now Metamora with a little something working on offense.
This is the same play, basically, Jim, just going back to the other side. Trapping guard, down blocking by the offensive line. Real nice read by Sanderson. Way to keep his feet driving. I'll tell you, I really like what they're trying to do right now. That's reestablish their game plan by running the football with Andy Sanderson.
1st and 10 from the 38-yard line. Sanderson will block this time. The carry goes to Matt Vogelsang. He'll take it out to the 39-yard line. Let's take a look at the Metamora offense. The lineup brought to you by Country Companies. Andy Sanderson goes by Andy. You can call him Andrew if you'd like. 210 pounds. Chris Miles and Jeff Seckler are the ends. The offensive line, this is a big group. 235 on the guards, over 210 on the tackle. Sam Elbert, small and quick for a center, 6'0", 175. Second down and 9. Sanderson took the fake. Grebner with the keeper. Takes it out to about the 42-yard line. Eric LACNY is there to make the tackle. The Providence defense. The linebackers are very active. Ryder, Urimovich, and Marino, all among the leading tacklers on the team. And the defensive backs are an experienced bunch. All seniors in the defensive backfield from that Centner's Providence Celtics. Eric LACNY made the tackle on the last stop. 3rd down and 6. Grebner on the keeper, has a little bit of room. He will try and fight his way for the first down. He's going to come up about a yard short. Tillman again making the tackle. So, down 14-0, but only a yard to go for a first down. What will Metamora do? They do have the wind with them with 3:12 remaining if they decide to punt.
Watch for these hard counts, Jim. We saw it earlier in the 2A game. We can see it here.
Providence already 105 yards on offense to 27 for Metamora, but remember 75 of Providence's yards came on the opening play of the game. 4th down, we'll call it 1. It's a long one. Will they run a play, or will they just try and draw Providence off sides? They'll go with the play. Sanderson moves the entire pile forward. He takes it across midfield to the 48-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Redbirds. So Metamora, after having disaster after disaster in the opening moments of this game, finally gets a big play to go their way. I'd like to have the concession on the that and the Cardinal helmet stickers. Genoa here earlier today, they were the Redbirds. Got Metamora in this game, and of course Illinois State, where we are playing the game with the Redbirds as well. Handoff on a short reverse inside. Not a lot of yardage there, but a gain of maybe about 2 on the carry, Jamie DISHROOM.
Well, Jim, listen to me. What Metamora has done is they've reestablished their game plan. They've gone to running Andy Sanderson on the inside, then gone to Jared Grebner going outside. Now they come with a couple, a little bit of a trick plays, like a flanker reverse or a flanker around. So they've really gotten back to what they initially tried to do.
Sanderson, the only back in the backfield. He'll get the carry, but he was met and he was stuck. Coming up to make the play, Nat Urevich, the linebacker.
Nice play by Nat, but you know, anytime a running back goes into the air, he takes the chances of this happening because he's got no power.
And your power is pretty well limited when your feet are on the ground on a field like this.
Exactly.
Clock running, 1:16 remaining here in the first quarter. 14-0, Providence has the lead. In a game that has already been severely affected by the weather. The reverse. And for big yardage into the backfield is Allen. He could go all the way, and he will. Metamora comes back and finishes off a big drive for a touchdown. 48 yards of the scoring play, and the Redbirds are right back in it. Now, the wind is with Metamora if they try and kick this. Let's see if they opt to go for 2 on a sloppy field.
Going for 2 is not a bad option here, Jim. The reason being is you get 2, all you need is a touchdown and an extra point takes the lead. If you don't get it now, you can always go for the 2 later on and still tie the game at 14-14.
Sanderson is the lone running back behind Jared Grebner. We have seen a lot of flags today on extra points. Well, now, let's take a look at the touchdown very quickly.
Good.
You know what really set this play up was Andy Sanderson was faked into the line, and then they brought Allen around, handed him the ball off on a trap play going wide. He breaks the tackle, makes a nice cut back to the inside, then out, and ends up in the end zone. A very, very well executed play as far as Metamora was concerned.
4:52 on that scoring drive. Andy Sanderson is also the kicker. He has only attempted 1 field goal so far this year. This will be a 25-yard attempt at an extra point. And Sanderson puts it right down the middle of the uprights. 14-7. Birds take a lot of body blows here in the opening 5 minutes of the game, but they refuse to go down, and now they're down by a touchdown.
Well, you know, the real good thing about this, Jim, and I said it during the drive, was they went back to what they do best, basically, and that was run Andy Sanderson up the middle after he has a couple of successful runs inside. The quarterback, Jared Gruber, he bootlegs it outside. What he basically did was they stuck to the game plan, stuck to what got them to this championship game, and once they did that, they were able to come back, run some wing reverses or some wing traps, and that's where they had the big touchdown run, and that was on a wing trap. Basically fake the Sanderson inside, draw the linebackers to the fake, and then run Allen outside on the trap.
Give Pat Ryan credit. He did not panic at all, and when the coach doesn't panic, the team usually won't panic. Everything had gone against Metamora. Providence had recovered their own fumble on the opening play of the game and took it in for a touchdown. Then Metamora, on their first 2 offensive plays, coughed up the football. The Metamora defense held one time and gave up a touchdown on the other.
Jared ALIG in to kick for Metamora. They keep it on the ground. Celtics trying to set up for a big return for MEDINA, and he takes it out to the 42-yard line before he's brought down by Jermaine DYKES. 26 yards on the return for MEDINA. Now time for Providence to try and answer. Actually, things are looking up here. It's still raining, but it's not coming down as hard as it was earlier in the game. First and 10 for Providence. MEDINA gets yet another carry, and he is stood up right at the line of scrimmage. He may have fallen forward for a couple of yards. In the neighborhood were David Long and John VANECKO. It was a stunned silence for the Metamora crowd the first few plays of the game, and now they have seen their team claw back in it.
You know, we're going to have to see Metamora go ahead and go to more of an 8-man in the box style of defense. They're going to have to try and pack it inside and basically play the run against the Celtics. They've got to almost expect Providence to try and keep running the ball with Louis MEDINA because of the success they had early on with Louis.
A Samaz Allen touchdown run has gotten Metamora back in it. We've played one in the 4A title game. Providence leads by 7. We thank you for watching this game with us tonight, and we remind you can read all about it in tomorrow's edition of the Chicago Tribune. Providence leading Metamora 14-0 as we get ready to start the second quarter. Jim Blaney and Ron Rivera at Hancock Stadium at Illinois State University. In a mistake-filled game, which don't get the feeling that it's because the teams are bad, it's that the weather is bad. 2 turnovers for Metamora, one of them turned into a touchdown. Cruz gives to MEDINA. He bounces it outside, cuts back, and will take it out to the 48-yard line. Brought down by Matt Vogelsang, but not before. He moves it up to where it will be a 3rd down and call it a long 2.
See, now that's what Metamora has to do against Providence. They've got to challenge him at the point of attack, force MEDINA to bounce outside. But when that happens, you've got to have guys come up and make tackles. You can't miss arm tackles against Louis MEDINA. If you do, he's going to continue to run and run and run and add to that 2,500-yard total.
And he has already added on to it well enough to where he is now over 2,600 yards on the season. 3rd down and 4. First pass play of the game for Providence, and it is picked off. First it was tipped, then it was picked off by Sam Elbert, and he returns it into Providence territory. The pass was tipped by Jeremy DROEGE, and then 11 yards on the return by Sam Elbert. So now Metamora has a turnover, and they'll see what they can do with it.
Well, that's the big risk you take when you try to pass the ball in this type of weather. And anytime you do, bad things are going to happen, and this is exactly what happens, a bad thing for Providence.
Interestingly enough, it took Providence 2 plays with the wind before they decided to try and put it in the air. 1st and 10 for Metamora now. They have the ball on the Providence 40-yard line. Jamie DISHROOM with the carry. He'll pick up a couple of yards down to the 38-yard line.
No, Jim, going back to that tip pass Robert Cruz threw, he's only about 5'9", 5'9 and a half, so it's kind of tough for him to get that ball up over those big, tall defensive linemen for Metamora.
He's got beautiful footwork. He's got a nice arm, but still, when you've got people rushing at you there, 6'3 and 6'2, it makes it awfully difficult. DISHROOM again, tries the left side. Ran into somebody initially and then taken down before he could get 1st down yardage. It's going to bring up 3rd down and about 1.5 yards.
And again, we've been talking about it all day. We talked about it in 2A. We might as well talk about it here, Jim. It looks like they're in 4-down territory because of the wind.
Jamie DISHROOM coming into the game just a little bit shy of 1,000 yards for the season.
Got a great average, though, Jim, averaging 9 yards a carry. It's a terrific number to have as a big change-up back.
And Vogelsang averages over 9 yards per carry as well. And remember, it's Sanderson that is the featured back. Tight formation for Metamora on 3rd down and 1. Grebner with the keeper. He's got plenty of room. One man to beat down the sideline. He'll take it inside the 10 before Tillman prevented the touchdown. 22 yards on the game.
This is what you can do, again, when you stick to your game plan, you have success running the ball inside with a guy like Andy Sanderson. You can fake the dive to him, pull it out, suck everybody in, and then bounce it outside. And I'll tell you, Jared Grebner's got some great speed. A good little move there to give himself a couple extra yards.
Grebner not too shabby on the ground either. He averages 9.7 yards per carry. They could have called a face mask at the end of that play.
Yes, they could have.
So now the momentum has totally swung Metamora's way. They're working on a second drive for a touchdown. One thing Providence has not done in this game yet is they have not driven the ball. They had a 75-yard scoring play for a touchdown, and then on their next two possessions, they were given the ball deep in Metamora territory. Only one time were they able to punch it into the end zone. So right now, the team that is doing a better job offensively is Metamora, even though they are behind, but that could change in a hurry. First down goal from the 4. Sanderson could not find any open area in the middle of the Providence line. He lost a yard on the play, back behind the 5-yard line.
You know, it looked like Providence on that play, Jim, had a stunt called a run stunt. That is basically where all the linebackers hit inside gaps. And a great example of that was we saw number 52, Matt Urumovich, come through and get to the quarterback almost immediately.
Ball is spotted at the 4, second down. Andy Sanderson had the ball taken out of his gut by Grebner. He fought his way down to the 2-yard line and then was pulled back. Almost looked like the ball may have come free, but Grebner able to hang on. Uremovich coming up to make the stop.
The quarterback keeper all the way. He just wanted to make sure he stuck it in there to Sandy.
Look at Uremovich just holding him by the jersey.
You know, Grebner just wanted to stick it into Andy Sanderson's gut just for a second to suck the defense in, and then he pulled it out and looked for the yardage, and he got it.
Third down goal, ball on the 2. Sanderson gets the handoff and fights his way into the end zone for the touchdown. Metamora is an extra point away from tying it, or a 2-point conversion away from taking the lead.
You got to credit this drive to the Metamora offensive line. Look at these guys surge into these guys, create a seam. Sanderson finds the seam, scores the touchdown. Just a real good surge by that offensive line.
Now the try for point to tie the game. Low and nearly blocked, but it's good. What a comeback by the Metamora Redbirds. In spite of the fact that we're barely even into the second quarter, you're saying, how can there be a comeback? This team was in big trouble against the undefeated Providence Catholic Celtics, and now we've got a tie football game, and Metamora can breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, 0-0, let's start all over again.
You know, Jim, in a game like this with these types of conditions, if Providence doesn't bounce back on this drive, if they don't establish some sort of dominance at the line of scrimmage, even if it is for 5 or 6 or 7 plays and then they got a punt, they're in trouble. It could be a team that could be easily whipped right now. We've seen it earlier. The Redbirds marched down twice, scored twice. So Providence has to make a stand right now offensively.
Not only marched the ball, but marched it quickly. Just 2:41 for that drive. Another squid kick. That's an onside
yes,
kick.
It was.
Didn't quite get as far or have as much juice on it as the Redbirds would have liked. But obviously, by the way you look at the strategy and the way it's coming off here by Pat Ryan, he obviously likes the effort his defense is putting in.
Well, I'll tell you, he really feels very strong about it that he had his kicker onside kick it. Jared ALIG tried to get it to bounce a little more to the left. Unfortunately for them, it didn't. Good recovery by Providence.
Now Providence will try and get something going on offense. Cruz appears to be changing the play. Goes to Medina. He bounces along the line of scrimmage. He'll pick up about 4 yards just shy of the midfield stripe where Brian Murphy makes the tackle.
Well, you know what he saw, Jim, and the reason why Robert Cruz changed this play was when they split the two receivers down here towards our side of the field, what he did was he saw 3 defenders go over to cover 2. That meant that there was only about 6 or 7 guys in the tackle box. So what they decided to do was go ahead and hand it off to Medina up the middle.
Medina already over 10 carries in the game. And again,
See,
Cruz changing up.
There's only 6 guys in the tackle box again.
Medina will again get the call, and apparently Cruz checked off to the right play because Medina is across the 45-yard line down to the 43. But Brian Murphy and Cody Dykes could not get there before Medina picked up the first down.
The Providence has seen something that they like offensively. That is when they run their spread offense, they spread all these guys out. All right, Metamora is making too many adjustments, is making too many corrections, too many guys are spreading out. They're leaving only 6 guys in the tackle boxes. So Cruz, being the veteran quarterback, sees that, audibles to a running play.
Starting to rain a little bit harder again now. It had led up to a drizzle just a moment ago. And Cruz again informing all his linemen of the change in the play. Again, it will go to Medina. He takes it right up the gut where there was a big hole. Medina is into the Metamora secondary, couldn't quite stay on his feet. He was brought down by Jared Grebner at the 24-yard line. 19 yards on the carry for Medina.
Well, Jim, what Metamora is going to have to do to stop Providence is they're going to have to go ahead and play a little bit of man coverage on the outside and keep those defenders inside. There is a huge gaping hole up the middle for Louis Medina. He makes a great cut back to the inside, and there it was, nothing but running room for him.
Rob STAZAK, number 79, had a huge block sealing off the inside for Medina. First down and 10. Medina decides to go to the outside and then got popped as he took it inside the 20-yard line. Gerald ALIG came up and made the initial stop. Cody Dykes put a pop on Medina as he went down. Both teams showing the ability to move the football. Medina had a big game in the state title game 1 year ago. Metamora and Pat Ryan, they were a winner over Sacred Heart Griffin last week in the semifinals. Fumble on the play. Cruz, did he get back down to the turf quick enough? The Metamora Redbirds are saying no. Look at the official down on hands and knees to make the call. The Redbirds have recovered again.
Again, bad exchange between the center and quarterback. It looked to me Robert Cruz never really had the ball pulled out of center before he had it. Because of that, he put the ball on the turf. Recovery goes to Metamora.
Jeremy DROEGE was one of the last people off the pile. Let's see if he may have been the one who got it. He was nearby the football. Metamora's not too worried about who actually recovered it. The fact of the matter is they have the football. DROEGE will get credit for the recovery. First and 10 now for the 21. So now the turnovers have evened up at 2 apiece. Grebner is going to keep. Grebner is going to find maybe 2 yards.
You know, Jim, we've seen both teams make adjustments already to what they want to do offensively. It looks to me now what Metamora has decided to do is change their strong side, go from one side of the offensive line to the other by moving their tight end, giving them an extra blocker on the other side of the field when they bring him over.
That is not snow, that is rain. We need to drop about another 4 degrees before it starts snowing, and the rain has caused 4 total turnovers in this game. Second down, 8. All sorts of misdirection in the backfield. Carrying the ball is Allen. He has a touchdown in this game. On that particular play, he's going to have a 5-yard loss. Tony Pasolano there to make the initial hit.
You know what happened on that, Jim? Nobody was full. They tried to get a little just misdirection, fake the dive to the inside, come back with a trap going the other direction. The only problem with a play like that is it takes too long. It's got to be a quick hitting play, especially when you've got a defense that's charging and attacking right now, that as Providence is doing.
Simaz Allen, not as successful on that carry as he was earlier in the game on the touchdown run. And now, big trouble for Metamora. 3rd and 14 for a running team into the wind in a pass situation, and Providence does the right thing. They bring everybody up to the line. They're going to make Grebner try and pass. He'll run for it. He's met at the original line of scrimmage at the 22, and really, that was a possession preservation play, Ron. They just didn't want to put it up for grabs. They're more than content to punt. Matt Ryder coming up to make the stop.
Well, they're going to be faced with a difficult situation, Metamora is, and that is going to punt into a pretty strong wind. And you know, you got Louis Medina back there. If he gets his hands on this football, he could make something happen because there's going to be some real good field position for Providence.
Medina and David Popp are back to return the punt. Pat Ryan told us before the game that 3rd down and long is our enemy. We have to avoid that situation. You see how it's going to cost them here because they have to punt into the wind. Good line drive kick, and Popp decides to handle it at his own 40-yard line. Good coverage by Metamora as Popp can't turn the corner. Samaj Allen coming in to make the tackle. 38-yard punt, 0 on the return. Metamora couldn't ask for anything more. They've tied this game up 14-14. Providence back on offense when we come back. The Providence players are all huddled around the heater, but the guy they should let in there, Ron, is the ball boy.
Most certainly, Jim, because you know what? That heater will help keep that ball dry and keep it light. That ball gets heavy and wet and slick, it's tough to handle. So I'll tell you right now, if I'm one of those coaches and I got a ball boy that's handling my team's football, I have him stand by the heater, keep that football dry.
4 minutes remaining before halftime. Game tied at 14. Providence has the ball on their own 40-yard line. That time MAUGERI got the carry. He'll move the pile out just short of the 45-yard line. Among the Redbirds in on the stop, BRYAN Murphy. We have seen a lot of things happen in this game. Matt Sentner's team had 14 points in a hurry in this one, but we've seen Metamora come back with 2 long drives, and we're tied with 3.5 minutes remaining before halftime. Cruz has done a great job of checking off at the line. It appears he is doing so once again. Medina has to battle his way for 3 yards to the 48-yard line. Steve Fisher, the nose guard, coming in and making the initial hit and then waiting for a little help to come. 3rd down, 2 yards.
You know, Metamora is playing right into Providence's hands. Providence goes to the spread offense. Metamora counters by spreading the defense, but you know, by doing that again, they're creating running lanes for Providence's Louis Medina and the rest of those offensive backs.
3rd down. Medina trying to find a hole. He was popped at the 50. Fumble again on the play, and Metamora appears to have recovered again. And they have. They will have the ball at midfield. John VANECKO made a big stick. The ball popped out of Medina's hands, and the Redbirds have their 3rd fumble recovery of the game, and Jeremy DROEGE may have his 2nd.
Well, again, you know what happened on this play, Jim? They didn't come with the spread offense. That allowed the strong safety to be in position to make a great play. Because of that, because they didn't come to that spread offense, the strong safety was there to make the hit.
So 2:42 now remaining in the 2nd half. The carry will go to Andy Sanderson, and he's bottled up immediately. Eric Steinbach, number 80, those among the tackle. It is unbelievable the way this game has turned around. And it is right now, it's Metamora that looks like the team that's playing for their 3rd straight state title. But remember, last year Providence was down by 10 to Sacred Heart Griffin in the 4th quarter and still found a way to win. Grebner on the keeper. Pitches at the last moment to DISHROOM, and he's hauled down about a yard behind the line of scrimmage. Scott Janik coming up from his cornerback position and making the stop.
Scott Janik played that as well as a corner could play that. He waited, he made Jared Gruber make a bad decision. Jared should have faked the toss and come inside, but because he didn't fake the toss, he didn't get touched by anybody. He tossed it out there. Defender was able to come up and make a big play.
Metamora again confronted by 3rd and long into the wind. Grebner back to throw. Wants to go downfield, had a man open for a second. Jeff Seckler looked like he was going to make the reception, but Scott Janik got a hand on it at the last moment and batted the ball away. 4th down.
2 very good football plays by Scott Janik, one right after the other. Here he makes a real good reach, stays deep with his receiver at the last second, leaps up, gets in the way of the receiver, causes the incompletion.
Now 4th down and 9. Medina is back deep to receive a punt. Matt Vogelsang, the punter, made an outstanding effort on the last punt. And this is going to be ALIG punting, and again, line drive, perfect kick for this kind of weather. Gets a good roll, it rolls out of bounds to the 20. You cannot ask for anything more out of your kicker. Jared ALIG has had, his last 2 punts have been 38 and 29 yards into the wind, and there has been no return on either punt. I would think you have to say to this point, he's been your MVP.
He has. He's done what they've needed him to do, and that is to keep Providence pinned on their side of the 50-yard line. We've seen it back-to-back times here, so that's been a big plus for Metamora.
Now Providence has the ball on their own 20-yard line, 1:54 remaining in the second quarter. Cruz will throw. He's looking deep. Has a man going down the sideline and just a little bit long for Ed Olsta. Jared ALIG there in the coverage.
You know, good play calling here, I think, as far as Providence was concerned. They've had a lot of success running on first down. Why not try something big, see if you can get a big play out of it. There's only a minute 48 left to go in the game. That was a pretty good decision as far as the Providence coaching staff was concerned.
Also keep in mind that Providence is playing with the wind. Second down, 10. Officials not quite ready, and now we're set to go. Medina gets the carry, and Medina's going to get nowhere. As a matter of fact, he lost a yard on the play. Jeremy DROEGE there to make the stop.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Metamora goes to using their timeouts right now.
And that is exactly what they will do, is they'll call timeout. 1:30 remaining here in the second quarter. That's the first timeout used in this half by either team. And Providence with some work to do now, because you would think that Metamora is going to get the ball in pretty good field position. Pat Ryan, a health teacher at Metamora, and he was talking the other day about how teaching health is a little bit different now in school than what it was a few years ago because of all the issues now confronting high school kids. It's no longer enough just to teach about nutrition and things like that. There's a whole lot of things to deal with besides that. And that's what Pat Ryan is all about during the week. Teacher, as all these coaches are, football coach, and he's got his team in the state title game.
Well, you know, he's done a terrific job. And it's very obvious that these guys really believe in what they're doing by the way that they stuck with both their game plans, both offensively and defensively. They were down 14-0. Instead of panicking, Coach Ryan stuck with what got him there. That was running the ball up the middle with Sanderson and then running around the ends with Grebner. A real solid game plan, got him right back in this football game.
Still no ball boy over by the heater. What I like is you see the cheerleaders getting over there a little closer to the heater when the players aren't over there.
I'll tell you what, Jim, we used to fight and scrap to get the best position as far as the heaters were concerned when I was playing.
Third down and 10 from the 20-yard line for Providence. Remember, Cruz throwing with the wind. Takes the pass, has Medina open on the other side, and Medina couldn't hang on. Medina had two people looking at him right in the face as he tried to turn and run with it. One of them was Brad Marshall, number 51, and the other defender, Luke Gangloff. They had that play well defense. Medina wouldn't have gone very far, and that's a big play because with the incompletion, Metamora does not have to use a timeout. Billy Shulden to punt. High snap, and he's just going to try and boot it out of harm's way. Line drive kick, dropped in the turf for a Millman. Grebner did a great job of just picking it up. Matt Ryder there on the coverage, and one of those plays, Ron, where Grebner was really caught in no man's land, because if he doesn't handle it, it skips all the way back to the 20-yard line. And if he does handle it, maybe he muffs it, but he did a good job of just finding the ears on it.
Exactly. All he did was trap that football and don't let it go any other direction but stop. And that, I think, was a good decision by him.
1:17 remaining before halftime. Metamora with the ball on their own 48-yard line. DISHROOM trying to find some room. Takes it across midfield to the 46-yard line. Khalid Tillman there to make the stop. Jamie DISHROOM, a 6'2", 220-pound senior. 13 touchdowns so far this year. On 2nd and 4, Grebner is going to keep and had no room whatsoever to work with. He's going to lose two in the play. Matt Ryder came up to make the stop. Metamora is, at least for the moment, going to let the clock run.
You know, good play by Providence. It looked like Redmond was trying to get out of bounds. Providence came up, forced him outside, and kept him from getting out of bounds, which was a real solid defensive play.
Somewhat surprised that Providence didn't decide to stop the clock. 3rd down and 5. Grebner wanted to go to Sanderson, wisely pulled down the football. Tony Pasolano, Grebner's face. Loss of 10 on the play, and now Providence is going to call timeout. And the reason why I'm surprised that they didn't call timeout on the previous play, Ron, is because Metamora is going into the wind in this quarter.
And I think it was a mistake that Providence took so long to decide to use that timeout as well. They got a chance to go out and force the kicker to do something. Here what they try to do is a little play action. The only problem with that type of play action is it takes you a little bit too long to complete the fakes, and if there's any kind of pass rush, they're going to get to the quarterback, as we saw right here as the Providence pass rush got to Grebner. You can't have too much play fake going on when you're trying to throw the ball downfield. Maybe a real quick fake dive or something like that, but you can't fake a long trap because it takes too long to develop.
Well, a decision now for Providence. Do you go after the kicker, or do you fair catch it and try and pitch it into the end zone since you have the wind behind you?
Or if you're Metamora, do you try to kick the ball, do you try to run the clock out, or do you run a fake punt?
They have 15 yards to go to pick up a 1st down, so a fake would not be to get a first. A fake would be to eat up the time.
Exactly. Try and kill that clock, I think, is really what they're concerned about.
No deep setback for Providence. They're not fooled at all by this. What they ought to do is try and get him down the ground as soon as they can. Let's see if there will be a second left. I think they're going to put a second back on the clock. The referee is discussing it right now, but the teams are already on their way to the locker room, so there you see the referee shaking his head no. Time had run out in the 1st half. So, a lot of action in the opening couple of minutes of the game that favored Providence, but Metamora methodically coming back in this one. It's all tied up, 14-14 at the half.
Halftime at the 4A state championship game at Hancock Stadium in Normal. It's all tied up, 14-14, Metamora and Providence. We are joined at halftime now by Gary Collins, the principal at Monmouth High School. And Gary, you've been part of a task force that the IHSA has formed, and one of the things that's always in controversy, if not discussion, is athletes who transfer between a private school and a public school and the rules regarding. Now, what has the IHSA been working on in regard to that topic?
Jim, the task force was appointed by the Board of Directors as a result of the Legislative Commission addressing that issue of what they considered to be a level playing field that wasn't necessarily level. And what the task force did was to look at that concern as well as others and try to make recommendations that could address them, and then take those recommendations to the principals, to the membership. That's where those things are now. Basically, what the task force did was to look at things such as what are legitimate reasons other than athletic reasons for attending a non-public high school. Certainly the task force wanted to keep in mind a family and students' right to choose, and yet protect the integrity of the transfer rule and to disallow those persons who might abuse a transfer solely for the purpose of participating in athletics.
That's what I wanted to get at, Gary, is the problem isn't with whether an athlete, or student athlete I should say, wants to attend a private school or a public school. The problem comes in is when there's a perception that some student athletes are shopping around for the best deal, correct?
That's correct, and certainly there are those people who would like to see two separate associations. Our task force never considered that, didn't want it. We think public and non-public schools participating in the same association is extremely positive and healthy, and that's where we proceeded from that perspective. So it was not an issue of separation, but an issue of unity and trying to address concerns. And you use the word perception, Jim, which is accurate. Certainly everybody doesn't assume that because a student is an athlete and they go to a non-public school that they're going there just for athletic purposes. Absolutely not. And what the task force tried to do was to build in some safeguards to protect those choices of families and students, and yet give what some people would call an outward legitimacy to the selection of a particular school that would not necessarily be athletic reasons.
Is this just a problem that's germane to the schools in and around the Chicagoland area, or is this something that exists in places like Peoria and Springfield, where there are also a significant amount of private schools as well?
Good question, and that certainly was one of the things that the state members of this group discovered. The larger areas, the larger schools, the larger communities, I should say, we seem to find more concern. However, there are pockets scattered around the state. When you find people who may be on a private school bordering a state, when people from other states come in, people who travel long distances and live in a certain community during the week in order to go to a private school and go home to their parents on the weekends. But there were pockets scattered throughout the state. And we found, as we already knew, but I think we all had a better understanding and a better appreciation of the diversity within the state of Illinois in both public and non-public schools.
Well, one thing the IHSA has always been able to do is get everybody to sit down and talk it out rather than have something drastic happen, which would limit the chances for student athletes in sports in the state of Illinois. Gary Collins, thank you very much for your time. Always stop at the McDonald's in Monmouth when I'm on my way to Western Illinois for basketball games, so tell them to keep up the good job there.
Okay.
Ron Rivera and I will be back with a look back at the first half after this timeout. Back at rain-soaked and wind-swept Hancock Stadium in Normal, Jim Blaney along with Ron Rivera. Metamora and Providence tied up 14-all at the half. And Ron, the thing that impressed me in the first half is how Metamora, even though they had disasters on the first 3 plays of the game, they didn't panic, they got back in the game, and they're in good shape. They're tied with the powerhouse team 14-14 at the half.
Well, you got to give credit to Coach Ryan. He stuck with his game plan. His game plan was to run the ball inside with his big fullback Anderson and then run the ball outside with his quarterback and his wings, and that's exactly what he did. He stayed patient even though there was early disaster, and he was able to grind it out, and because he did that, they tied the score at 14-14.
Ron, how much discipline does it take on the part of the coaching staff to, and we hear coaches say it all the time, we're going to stay with our game plan. Well, many times we hear that, and that's not what happens. With Pat Ryan, they were disciplined, their coaches were, and they did stay with the game plan.
Well, I think a big part of it was they had to, because they're an option style of team. They like to run the football. They don't throw the football an awful lot, but when they do throw it, they have had some success. So it would have been very easy for him to scrap it, but I think the weather also played a big part in him being patient, because if it had been a nice day being down 14-0, he might have tried to throw the ball a little bit too soon. But I think his discipline, the weather being a factor, and the fact that he is an option style team played a big part of him staying patient and just doing what he does best, and that's running the football inside, running the football outside.
And for the Providence Catholic Celtics, they knew it was going to be a tough game, was going to be a fight all the way. This is one team that certainly does not wear their laurels on their sleeve. They know, and they've won 41 games in a row for this reason, they know that every opponent is dangerous until there's 0-0-0 on the clock.
Most certainly, but you know, the thing for Providence was they had a couple of big breaks go their way early on, then all of a sudden they had a couple of bad breaks. They had the momentum taken right away from them. A big credit also absolutely has to go to Metamora, but I think Providence did themselves in a little bit by making a couple of bad mistakes in the second quarter.
Providence fumbled the ball 4 times in the opening half. They recovered one of them. That went for a touchdown, but the 3 giveaways they had proved to be costly in the opening half of this game. This is where Ron Rivera and I are atop Hancock Stadium. Once again, it's very reminiscent of the SS Minnow. We'll have the highlights of the opening half coming up after this timeout. We're tied at 14 between Providence and Metamora. Back at Hancock Stadium in Normal on the campus of Illinois State University, Metamora and Providence tied up at 14 at the half. Let's take a look
at the opening half highlights, and this game got off to a gangbuster start. The opening play of the game, Steve MAUGERI coughs up the football, but David Popp is there, Ron.
Well, you know, a very fortunate thing for Providence. That ball is loose. It's out on the turf. It's anybody's ball, but guess what? It bounces right into Pop's hands. He alertly picks it up, rambles 65 yards for the opening touchdown.
7-0 Providence after the extra point. Then Providence recovered a Metamora fumble on their second offensive play of the game. They cap it off when Louis Medina goes into the end zone for his 36th touchdown of the year, 14-0 Providence. But then here comes Metamora. They were patient on offense, and it pays off. Allen with a 48-yard touchdown run to make it 14-7.
And again, Jim, credit Metamora's coaching staff with being patient, doing what they do best, and that's running the football inside and outside.
More action from the second quarter. The turnovers continue for Providence. Cruz has his pass tipped, and it was hauled down by Sam ELBERT. Made a nice return and set up the offense again for Metamora.
Thing you got to be careful about is you can't pass in this bad weather.
Then Jared Grebner on the keeper, turns the corner, had one man to beat, couldn't quite do it, but did go out of bounds and set up the touchdown run that tied it up at 14. This is Andy Sanderson.
Andy's been the workhorse so far for Metamora, getting the tough yards inside. He's the guy that kept the offense going.
And then Louis Medina, with Providence trying to drive for a go-ahead score, got deep into Metamora territory. But on the very next play after that, Robert Cruz with a bad exchange from center. Jeremy DROEGE falls on the football. And a couple of possessions for each team at the end of the first half. No more scoring after that. Game tied at 14, but really two stories here, Ron. Number one, turnovers, and number two, look at the passing yards.
That doesn't surprise me because bad weather is going to do nothing but just make things tougher to do as far as throwing the ball downfield. I think both teams have made the right decision as they tried to run the ball. Also another big number out there, look at the turnovers. 5 total turnovers, 2 for Metamora, 3 for Providence.
And considering you get credited with a first down on a touchdown, that means there's only been 2 first downs made by each team that was not put in the end zone. It's at the half, tied at 14. We'll have the second half of action after this timeout. Providence looking for a third straight state title. Let's go down on the field where Yvonne Simmons is standing by with their head coach.
Okay, Coach, turnovers really plagued you in the second quarter. Was it the conditions or was there an offense adjustment that needed to be made?
I think it was the conditions more than anything else. With the wetness and everything, and they're a good team. They got a strip on us on one of them.
You have plans for Medina in your running game?
Yeah, we're going to run more of that spread stuff we were running and try and pop him up the middle on a long one where they have nobody in the middle of the field.
And then quickly, defensively, Metamora was really on a roll, and they had their running game going. What are you planning to do to stop them?
Defensively?
Yes.
They're going to go back to more basic stuff. We came out in some new things that we really hadn't done much this year, and they're going to go back to more basic stuff in the second half.
Thank you. Good luck with the second half. Jim, Ron, back to you.
Thank you, Yvonne, and obviously that was not Matt Sneffner. That was one of the assistants for Providence, but the fact of the matter is we are ready for the second half at Hancock Stadium. Jim Blaney along with Ron Rivera. This is the Class 4A title game. Jared ALIG getting ready to kick off for Metamora. And he'll be kicking with the wind, but they certainly want to keep it away from Louis Medina. Khalid Tillman picks up the football. Again, it's on the turf. And falling on top of it was John VANECKO. Metamora has their 4th turnover of the game.
Well, Jim, again, the elements are most certainly playing in this football game. It's tough to pick up a wet football. It's even tougher to run with it when you're trying to get a couple extra yards. Just go ahead and tuck it away with 2 hands and just go down where it's safe.
That ball was coming out before the hit was ever put on. First down. Grebner on what looks like a broken play, and my, was he hit by Jeremovich. Loss of a couple on the play. You know what? One of the things you have to do in this game, Ron, is you got to look like a football player. Jeremovich looks like a football player.
I'll tell you what, he's getting scolded right now by the head referee. A little too excited coming off that pile, but he did a terrific job stuffing Jared Grebner right there, and he's been very active today.
working on 200 tackles for the season. Matt Urevich, a 6'3", 215-pound senior. There was actually a gain of 1 on the play. 2nd down, 9. Grebner on the keeper. Again, could not get rid of the football. In the area was Eric Steinbach. Steve Marino led the charge.
You know, obviously the Celtics saw something, made a couple adjustments. Now they're looking for this play, and I think what we're going to have to see if Metamora expects to have a little success is some play action or some cross action where they try and get the Celtics going in the wrong direction.
To give you an idea of how infrequently Metamora throws the football, Jeff Seckler is one of their leading receivers. He only has 5 receptions this year. Double tights into the game, option pass, loading it up to throw is Disheroom, and a little short and incomplete. Claiming pass interference on the play is John VANECKO. He won't get the call. Max Steinhauer was there to make the coverage, with the pass well short of its intended target.
Well, the reason there was no penalty either, that was also an uncatchable ball. They got to be realistic as to the chances the receiver has of catching it. There was no chance of him coming back inside and catching it.
That will bring up 4th down and 9. Apparent passing down for Grebner, but let's wait and see. Allen is in motion. Grebner is going to roll. He steps up to throw, lofts it into the end zone. Allen makes a spectacular catch in the end zone, but there is a flag down on the play. Khalid Tillman had the coverage. And the way that the Metamora Redbirds are reacting, they're looking for pass interference on Tillman.
It's a touchdown for Metamora.
Touchdown!
20-14, Metamora takes the lead.
All this is quarterback's rolling out. He's got a couple options, but he likes his option of the man running the deep route. He's got the guy beat by a step.
Great
good
catch.
Just a good catch.
2 touchdowns on the game for Allen. The extra point again nearly blocked, but again good. It's 21-14. And the Metamora Redbirds, for the first time in this game, have the lead.
Yeah, Jim, when you're an option team and you roll out, Jared Gruber gives you a couple of options here. And I think because of the fact that he's such a good running quarterback, it froze Providence and put a little doubt in the mind as to whether or not he was going to throw the ball instead of just tuck it and keep running. But he makes a good decision, lays it out there. And because he lays it out there with his receiver who had a step on the man, Allen was able to come down with the catch for the touchdown.
Sanaz Allen with a long run of 45 yards in the opening half, now a 28-yard touchdown catch, and Metamora has scored 21 unanswered points. They have a 7-point lead.
Jim, you notice, I just noticed that Louis Medina and Khalid Tillman have swapped sides.
Medina will be nearest to you when you see the deep men. Well, obviously, ALIG picked it up because this is Tillman again, and he's taken down at the 26-yard line. Leading the charge from Metamora was Kurt Nauman.
So they were most certainly trying to kick that ball away from Medina. Don't give him any extra touches.
1:46 on the scoring drive, and earlier we saw Metamora exercise patience and exercise the ability to stay with their game plan. Now, we'll see if Providence can do the same thing, because really their passing game will be greatly hindered by the fact they're going dead into the wind. Medina gets another carry, and Medina will bump it out to about the 32-yard line. Pick up a 5 on the play. Brian Murphy making the tackle.
Well, again, they've come out, Providence has come out in that spread offense. We saw them early on in the first and second quarters, had success with that. By spreading the offense, they spread the defense and create quicker seams and gaps for Medina to hit. If he gets past that first wave of defenders, he's off to the races.
Providence now faced in a situation that they rarely saw this year. They're going to have to come from behind. Big yardage up the middle past the Metamora defense. Cruz not going to the air, instead content to keep handing it off to Medina. That carry goes out to about the 43-yard line. The last time Providence trailed significantly in a game was against St. Rita, but they were able to come back and win the game. 1st and 10 for Providence. They have the ball on their own 43-yard line. Medina takes the handoff. Got maybe a couple of yards before he was pulled down by Brian Murphy.
That was a good job by Metamora's defense. What they did was they spread themselves a little bit, but they played fast reaction football, forced Medina to try and bounce it to the outside. Watch, Medina really wants to go off tackle, but he's got to belly it to the outside. When you get him going east and west instead of north and south, you cut his effectiveness and you allow your defenders to come and help you make good plays.
2nd down 9 for Medina and the Celtics. The official takes a timeout, and an equipment problem with the helmet of David Popp.
You know, Jim, right here, Metamora's got to realize something. That is, Providence is going into the wind. That means they should be able to loosen up their defense a little bit more and keep their safeties inside that tackle box. By taking those safeties outside the tackle box, it's creating bigger seams for Providence's offensive running backs.
Let's go down to the field to Yvonne Simmons.
What they're doing right now is they're just trying to fix this chin guard. They're taking some scissors to it and trying to tighten it a little bit. It was really loose, so not a major operation going on, just a little chin guard fix in there.
But Popp will have to come out of the game for a play, Yvonne. Medina on the carry, has a little bit of room, but he's met, squaring up and making a nice play. Jared ALIG, and then Cody Dykes coming in to finish things off. Gain out to about the 48-yard line. It's going to be 3rd down and about 5.
Pretty good pickup by Louis Medina. He made a real nice read, bounced the ball to the outside, picked up the extra yards. The middle was plugged up.
Matt Sentner's Providence Celtics. 41 wins in a row, but they trail right now. Medina met in the backfield and pulled down. Cody Dykes got there before anybody else and wouldn't let Medina go. It's going to be 4th down. Now Providence faced with the prospect of punting into the wind.
Here, Jamal, really good thing that happens for Metamora is they penetrate and get guys into the gap. Then you get a real good read by number 43, the linebacker Cody Dykes.
Sold into punt instead, a fake, the pass with the up man, and a completion on the play. Scott Janik with room to run. He'll take it down to the 22-yard line.
You know what that was? That was what they used to call the old sleeper play. They sneak a guy out towards the line, towards the sidelines, and have him line up like he's part of the sideline. And because he did that, nobody from Metamora saw him lined up out wide.
Scott Janik making a big play for Providence as they move the stakes. 1st and 10 from the 21. And now the Louis Medina show will continue. Medina's going to pick up 3 down to the 18. Second down coming up for Providence. So Uremovich, a nice pass on the fake punt, and really run a great area of the field to go for. You're right at midfield. If you don't make it, it really isn't going to cost you that much.
No, so it was a good decision by Providence.
Medina again has some room up the middle. He's going to take it down to the 6-yard line before being corralled by the Metamora secondary. So now the running game's starting to roll for Providence. Medina picking up 14 yards and a 1st down. 1st and goal Providence from the 5.
Just a real nice dive, good blocking by the front 5 guys against the front 5 of Metamora.
MAUGERI now lines up in a true fullback position. He gets the carry right up the gut. Maybe got a yard. Jared Grebner coming up from his corner position to make the stop. MAUGERI had the carry on the opening play of the game and had not carried the ball since. And if I'm not mistaken, Ron, that's the only time they've lined up in a true eye with the fullback directly in front of the halfback, correct?
Both plays, exactly, just been fullback dives.
Something you would think the Metamora coaches have noticed. MAUGERI up again right behind the offensive line. MEDINA in the backfield. Instead, Cruz will roll. Cruz has all sorts of room. He'll walk into the end zone for a touchdown. Providence within an extra point of tying this game at 21. A heads-up play run by a senior quarterback.
You know, Jim, I really like that play call. The reason being is anytime you go with play action and you roll the quarterback out, you freeze linebackers, you get him outside the edge, and you give him the run-pass option. And the quarterback, as veteran as he is, Cruz makes the right decision. That's to tuck it under his arm and run for the pylon. Good decision by Robert Cruz.
That play was pass first all the way, correct, Ron?
Yes, it was, but he saw what happened was the defender turned his back to him. Once the defender turned his back to Cruz, Cruz knew that he should tuck and run to the end zone.
This is a two-point conversion for the lead. Cruz rolling out, has MEDINA coming out of the backfield, fumble on the play. Jeremy DROEGE, who has been all over the football all night long, hit Cruz, caused the ball to come free. Let's take a look at the replay, Ron, because MEDINA was dragging across. There he goes.
Well, the big mistake Cruz makes is on a half roll, when you set your feet, you have to release the ball. You cannot pump fake it, because if you pump fake it, the guy that's coming from the backside that's unblocked, and anytime there's a half roll, there's always one defensive lineman that's unblocked. That's exactly what happened. He pump faked the unblocked defensive lineman, laid the wood on him.
A cold night in Normal, but the action heating up. Metamora leads by 1. Here's the Providence touchdown that pulled them to within 1, and Ron, Cruz has to make a read here.
Yes, he does. He makes a great read. Quick fake, frees the linebackers. He sees that the defender covering the outside receiver turns his back. Cruz tucks it under his arm and runs for the corner. Touchdown. Now he makes a bad decision here, Jim. He has a half roll. There's an unblocked defensive lineman. He pumps the ball, and because he pumps the ball, he allowed the defensive lineman to gain ground and make the big hit.
And unlike college football, you cannot return a conversion.
No.
And a kick that's a little hot to handle. Grebner better fall on it. Picks it up at the 2. Now trying to make something happen. Staying alive for quite a while before he's met at the 12-yard line by Steve Marino, Eric LACNY, and about half of the coverage team for Providence Catholic.
Good job of covering. I think that when you get in a situation like that, you got a team a little bit on the ropes. You go after them, and that's exactly what Providence did with their coverage team.
Turns into a 12-yard return. Actually, a pretty good job by Grebner.
When you get in that situation, Grebner should just go ahead and protect the ball and go straight down. You don't want to have a big turnover in your own half of the 50.
We no longer have the puddles on the field that we had in the opening of the game, but the rain is still coming down. Sanderson delivers a blow, fighting for extra yardage, got the ball out to the 19-yard line. A lot of football player colliding when Sanderson runs into Matt Uremovich.
I'd say 2 quality young football players right there. It's really good to see guys competing at such an intense level.
Reminds me a lot, Uremovich does, of a young Ron Rivera.
Well, you know, I was thinking Pat Fitzgerald there.
Yeah, he does have that look, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He
His
really
huge
does.
shoulder pads, that angular body. 4:45 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Everybody uptight for Metamora. Sanderson takes it right into the middle of the line, pushes it across the 20-yard line, picked up about 3. It's going to be 3rd down and 2.
You know, we're starting to see Metamora go back to what they did in the 2nd quarter, Jim, and that is they're shifting the tight end to an unbalanced strength. And what they're doing is they're starting on a balanced formation, taking the tight end from the left side of the offensive line, moving him to the right side, and by doing that, it becomes an unbalanced set where you have an extra blocker to one side or the other.
6 times previous, Metamora has been faced with 3rd down. They've converted just 1. It's officially 3rd and 1. Grebner is going to have to get it himself, and it looks like he did not make it. Steve Marino and Matt Uremovich making the tackle on Grebner. Pat Ryan contemplating what lies ahead. His team will punt.
Well, at least they're going to, if they punt, they're going to be punting with the win, which is a big plus for the kicking unit.
They're going to measure, but it appears he is well short. And he is. Short by 2 feet.
Well, that was a quick decision by Grebner. I was really surprised that he turned it in so quickly. He had an option pitch back trailing with him, and that was Allen. And with Allen's speed, you'd almost thought that he would have sat there and pitched it to him and let Allen race to the yard marker.
Medina is standing near midfield. Providence looking like they're coming. Nearly got there, and it's going to be another line driver, and Medina makes the wise choice, just lets it bounce. It's going to roll dead at about the 44-yard line.
I think that was a good decision by Metamora, too, and that was to kick the ball away from Medina.
33-yard punt, no return again. The punt return yardage has been nothing for Providence because Metamora doing the wise thing and kicking away from Medina. So now Providence, they drove all the way down the field. On their last possession, they have the ball back, 1st and 10 at their own 44. 3:35 remaining in the third quarter. Medina trying to change directions. He's going to pick up 5 yards, take it out just shy of midfield. Well, they were nice and dry, Ron, when they were warming up in the field house before the game, but they were out there for maybe 2 minutes before they were soaked.
You know what's going to be interesting, Jim, is when they go in at halftime, all that stuff they're wearing underneath their pads are going to feel real heavy. And I'll tell you, the guys that are playing every play should basically take off that extra clothing.
2nd down 5. Maugeri resets. Reverse. This is David Popp running out of room. Nothing doing on the reverse. Jared Grebner and Jared ALIG coming up to make the stop. Maybe a gain of a couple on the play just across midfield to the Metamora 49.
Real good pursuit by Metamora's defense. The play was definitely a reverse, but it was a reverse that took a while. Watch how once it's recognized, you see Metamora's pursuit coming. From the safety making a good angle, the corners come up and forcing. I really like the way they got into the pursuit angles, corners fighting off the blocks. A good job, good disciplined play by Metamora's defense.
Providence has yet to convert a 3rd down in this game, 0 for 5. They get another chance on 3rd and 2. Medina cashes in, and he was 1 tackle away from breaking it for big yardage. Hauled down at the 42-yard line by Cody Dykes and Jared ALIG.
Well, what we're beginning to see is the size of Providence taking over as far as the initial surge by the offensive line. When you start doing that, you start surging into the defensive lineman. Running backs of the quality of a Louis Medina are going to pick up 6, 7, 8 yards at a shot.
Medina carrying the load as you would expect him to. 1st down at the 41-yard line of Metamora. Almost a bad exchange from center. Medina gets the hand up and cuts it back when he saw the Metamora defenders over pursuit. Sam ELBERT making the tackle, but not before Medina had taken it down to the 27-yard line. A gain of 14 on the play.
A little counter action there by Louis. He starts to the outside, but he sees all the pursuit flying a little too fast. Says he knows where he's going. He's not going to slip. He's going to take those short, choppy steps, and that's why he was able to plant that foot and cut back inside. Real good piece of quality running there by Louis Medina.
As you look at the plays unfold, the weather doesn't look that bad, but from that shot, you can still see that the rain is coming down. Not as hard as it was at the start of the game. Medina popped as he got up the middle. Cody Dykes and Brian Murphy there to make the stop just shy of the 25-yard line.
There's a good example, Jim, of what happens when you penetrate or you stalemate the offensive lineman. You force Medina to go east and west instead of north and south. See, everything's plugged up to the middle. He's got to put on the brakes. Tries to cut to the outside. Nothing doing. Good gang tackling there by Metamora.
In this game, the momentum has swung back and forth wildly. Right now, Providence having the better part of the action as they march down the field behind the running of Louis Medina. And he picked up about 3 before being stuffed by Brad Marshall.
Well, we talked about it early on. We're talking about it again, Jim. It looks like it's going to be 4-down territory. If they don't get the first down here, we most certainly do expect them to go for it.
Matt Sempner's seniors trying to play 3 years of varsity football without suffering a single loss. 3rd down 6 from the 24. Cruz rolls. He wants Riordan, finds him at the 20. Riordan makes a spin move. He'll have the first down out of bounds at the 12-yard line. First reception in the game for Tom Riordan. Matt Vogelsang making the tackle.
You know, we saw this play. This is the one that led to the touchdown. Great decision by Robert Cruz. Again, a little play action. Gets outside the defensive end. Sees that nobody's covering his receiver. Throws it to him right away. Good decision by a veteran quarterback, Robert Cruz.
Cruz threw for 34 touchdowns during the season. Was only picked off 5 times. And now back to Medina from the 12. He'll battle his way for a 4-yard gain down to the 8. Tackle on the play made by David Long. Clock running. We are now in the final half minute of the 3rd quarter. Providence came out in the game on fire, but then the momentum swung back to Metamora. They were able to tie it at the half. They came out, got another touchdown to go up 21-14, and since then it's been all Providence as they look for a touchdown that would put them back in the lead. 2nd down, 6 to go. Medina just puts down his head and burrows his way down to the 5-yard line. Brad Marshall coming in and making the initial hit. 3 quarters are now in the books. The Providence Celtics find themselves in the same spot they were in 1 year ago when they tried to win their 2nd consecutive title. They'll go to the 4th quarter trailing, but they're on the move. Back with the 4th after this timeout. And the guys from Trio Video, they're always prepared. Jim Blaney and Ron Rivera back at Hancock Stadium. 4th quarter upcoming in the 4A title game. Providence, they're down by 1, but they are driving. Cruz rolling out, looking to the end zone. He'll try and do it himself. He gets down past the goal line. Touchdown Providence. They're back in the lead.
Why not, Jim? It's worked for you so far this whole 2nd half. Quarterback run, option pass. The only time they failed was when they went on the 2-point conversion. A good play call here. Again, give Robert Cruz a little bit of an opportunity to make a decision. He made the right one, pounded it in for the touchdown.
Jason KALINA, number 60, with a big block that sealed the inside for Cruz. The Celtics will go for 2, leading 26-21.
Jim, I would be surprised to see them not try the quarterback run-pass option again.
We are 6 ticks inside the 4th quarter. Cruz fakes the handoff, pitches into the end zone, and wide open with an easy reception is Steve MAUGERI. It's 28-21 Providence.
Well, I'll tell you, some really good play calling by the Providence coaching staff there. I really like what they're doing with Robert Cruz on these passing situations. They're giving him 2 options. That is to run the ball or pass the ball based on the man coming at him. And he makes a real good decision here on this extra point attempt. Fakes the ball, turns, sees that a man's uncovered again because the guy came up to try and tackle Cruz, so Cruz dumps it over his head for the 2-point conversion.
MAUGERI's effort there is an example of the attitude of these Providence players. MAUGERI, by no means the imagination, is ever going to get a lot of carries with this team. He's the blocking back for Medina, but if you're going to be a player like Steve MAUGERI and be an excellent one, you have to keep your head in the game and be ready for anything. And when you are called upon to make a reception, to make a carry, you have to do the job, and he certainly did it there.
You know, Jim, I like that play he has where he carries the ball, and as he's getting tackled, he fumbles it up to his guy.
Exactly, because that was right on the money and exactly the way it was drawn up. Schuld is going to kick off with the win. Now, you may have noticed that both halves began with Metamora having the win. We'll explain why that is in a second, and that kicked well out of the end zone. The reason for that was Metamora won the toss. They deferred their choice. Providence wanted the ball to open up the first half. So when Metamora had their choice at the beginning of the second half, they decided they wanted the wind at their back, which at the time, if you remember, they had the momentum in the game, building over from the second half. They came down and got a touchdown and took the lead, so it turned out to be a pretty good decision. But now, the wind, which has been a huge factor in the game, as you saw what it can do to the ball off the tee, is now at the backs of the Providence Celtics, and Metamora is going to have to run into the wind here in the second half. Sanderson gets the first carry on the first play of scrimmage in the fourth quarter for Metamora, and he has no gain. Here now is the danger of making that decision, Ron. You're already a running team, and if you do get in 3rd and long, which seems likely here, Metamora is going to have an awfully tough time coming back.
And Metamora is going to have to do like Providence and just try and spread that defense a little bit, which they've done right now.
Grebner keeps, has one man to beat around the corner. Grebner has the first down. Hanging on for dear life was Scott Janik. Janik grabbed on and prayed for help.
And watch how Grebner just fakes the ball, holds on to it, pulls it out the last second, gets to the outside. And I'll tell you, if Janik wouldn't have gotten hold of him, he was off to the races.
Janik was the only man on that corner. At least the rain is going sideways now instead of up as it was doing for a while. 11 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. They'll move the chains down the field. The clock stopped as they reset the chains.
They also got a personal foul.
Well, I'll tell you what, there was a face mask at the very end of the play. Watch Janik grab Grebner's face mask. Well, he got it there, and he'll grab it again at the end of the play. Watch this.
They could have easily called unnecessary sportsmanship right there as well, going after the hit when the quarterback was out of bounds.
So the ball all the way out to midfield now. 11:07 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Jamie DISHROOM carries it inside the 45-yard line down to the 43 before he was taken down by Eric Steinbach. There has been so much ebb and flow of the momentum of this game. It's switched back and forth at least 3 times. And right now, Metamora driving. They're down by 7. And remember, if it does come down to field goals, Providence certainly has the edge in that department. Sanderson with a little bit of room at first. He was taken down by LACNY, but not before a gain of about 2 yards to the 41.
Well, we've said it time and time again, Coach Ryan is sticking to his game plan. He's running inside with Sanderson, running outside with Grebner. I tell you, it's a very well orchestrated offense right now as far as Metamora is concerned.
What else would you expect? Every game played today has gone down to the final minute. As a matter of fact now, a streak of 8 in a row of the games have been decided in the last 3 minutes here at the state championships going back to last year. DISHROOM taken down in the backfield. Eric LACNY, 2 tackles in a row and 2 big plays on defense. 4th down and 4 coming up.
I'll tell you, good defensive penetration. Stalemates created at the line of scrimmage, and then a real nice play by LACNY coming off the defensive end position.
So on 4th and 3 from midfield, Metamora is going to go for the first down. They are 2 for 2 so far on first down in this game. DISHROOM goes in motion. Grebner back to pass. He lays it up and down the field, but just missed his intended receiver, John VANECKO. Matt Steinhauer was right there on the play.
That was a very well conceived play. Good play action. The receiver actually had a step on the defenders, but unfortunately, it was a little bit overthrown by Grebner. Watch how he freezes everybody. He's got his receiver open. Good throw into the wind. It just carries a little bit out of the reach of his receiver.
Now Providence takes over. 1st and 10 on their own 42. 9:07 remaining. Medina. It's amazing how Medina gets hit and does not go down. The initial man just has to hold him up and wait for some help to come.
Well, what's happening, Jim, is because Medina's getting into the secondary so quickly, the person that's hitting him is either a corner or a safety. A corner or safety is usually not going to take him down by himself. He's going to have to square Medina up and drive through him, but you don't get a clear shot on a quality running back unless you've got reinforcements.
149 yards rushing in this game for Medina. That gives him over 2,700 yards this season. And Medina will carry again. Couldn't break the initial tackle by Jeremy DROEGE. Another gain of 3 for Medina, but that's going to bring up 3rd down and about 3. Cruz comes over to the sidelines to get the call. And one of the questions you have to ask about this Providence team is, are they maybe the best team in the state? Forget about what class they're in. They already have a victory over Joliet Catholic this year. They played in a very, very difficult league. They're one of the only teams that beat St. Patrick in the regular season. They're leading here in the 4A championship game right now. Medina looking for a 1st down, and once again, he was hit initially right by the line of scrimmage, but kept it going, and he may have another 1st down. Steve Fisher made the initial stop. You saw the Celtics, certainly they feel they've got the 1st down, and the official doesn't even bother for a measurement. 1st and 10 for Providence, 7.5 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter. The Providence fans soggy but happy at the moment. And you would have to consider New Lenox to be the high school football capital of Illinois, at least for this year. Providence coming into the state championship game undefeated. Lincoln Way will play tomorrow as an undefeated for the 6A title. Medina, you'll see him almost the rest of the way in this game. Again, hit right near the line of scrimmage, but keeps driving forward. He picked up about 3 on the play. David Long, number 72, was there to make the initial hit.
Jim, this is the type of drive you most certainly don't want to allow if you're Metamora. This is a time-consuming drive so far, and if they keep pounding it inside, Providence can basically control the clock, run the clock out, and they may not need to put points up on the board.
Pat Ryan's team needs 2 stops on defense. David Long lining up again for Metamora. Cruz rolling out, looking to throw. He's in trouble, he's being chased, and what a great play at the final moment by Jeremy DROEGE. Just grabbed the ankle of Robert Cruz as he was looking to turn the corner. It turns into a loss of about 1 yard on the play. 3rd down and long coming up.
Good discipline by DROEGE. Instead of going to the quarterback, he goes down the line of scrimmage. If he had gone at Cruz, Cruz would have been able to outrun him to the corner. But because DROEGE took the right angle, stayed on the line of scrimmage, he was able to bring Cruz down after he only picked up maybe 1 yard.
From the 45-yard line, 3rd down and 8. MAUGERI has gotten all the carries in this formation. Instead, this time Cruz rolls out. Coming back to the inside was Olsta, and he has room to run. Puts on a move, gets to the outside. Olsta is going to go out of bounds at the 15-yard line. A huge conversion on 3rd and 8. CODY DYKES and Jared Grebner making the stop, a pickup of 30 on the play. Down to the 13-yard line.
Great execution of what they call a flanker screen. The idea is for the flanker to come back in. See how the momentum of the defenders got them to run by the flanker who had the ball. When you do that and you get guys going in the wrong direction, Olsta just makes a miss. He's going to bust it for big yards, and that's exactly what he did.
And a good job by Olsta of hanging on to the football. Almost had his 11th touchdown of the season. Now Medina up the middle. Had a hole, fumbled the football. Metamora recovers. Coming up with the ball was number 58, Sam ELBERT. CODY DYKES knocked it away as Medina was on his way into the end zone for a touchdown that very possibly could have put this ball game away. But now, Metamora has the football back. They're backed up to their own goal line, but they have 5.5 minutes remaining, down by a touchdown.
Just a real good dive here. Gets the running back clear. Medina makes a nice move. Unfortunately, he doesn't protect the ball with 2 hands, just one. because of that, is stripped by the Metamora defenders.
For the second time in this game, CODY DYKES knocks the football free. Metamora from their own 3. They go with the play to Allen that takes a long time to develop. He picked up a couple of yards before he was hit by Jeremovic and LACNY. The question now is 5:14 enough for a wishbone team to drive the ball down the field for a game-tying touchdown. The first thing they've got to take care of is get out from underneath the shadow of their own goalpost. Sanderson sees Grebner keep it, and now Grebner takes it out to about the 12-yard line before being taken down by Eric LACNY and Steve Marino. It's going to be 3rd down and about 2 yards. Ron, if you're Metamora, do you seriously have to consider going for it on 4th down if you don't make it here?
Yes, you do, because of the wind, and I expect him to run something conservative up the middle.
Grebner keeps it again. He will have the 1st down. He goes out to the 16-yard line. Metamora stays alive.
You know, that's been a very positive play for them all night, Jim. Fake the ball inside to Sanderson, draw your linebackers to him, pull it out of his gut, pick up 4 or 5 tough yards with the quarterback keeper.
Matt Jeremovic, one of the many seniors on this team, trying to finish out his high school career undefeated with 3 state championships. But Metamora still has life. Jamie DISHROOM stood up as he tried to turn the corner. Pat Dillon, number 55, there to make the stop. And Dillon with a little chest thumping after the play, which the officials quickly come in and break up. 3:37 remaining in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I think every time Metamora tries to run that long trap with using one of the wings, Jim, it just takes a little bit too long right now to develop. You've got to hit a quick hitting dive or a quarterback keep outside if you're going to have success.
2nd down 10. Pitch goes to Allen. He's trying to make something out of nothing. Instead, Eric Steinbach there to make the play, and 3rd down upcoming for Metamora. Gain of 2 on the play. Each team with 3 timeouts remaining. The fans that have been here for this game have not moved in spite of the fact that it's been raining the entire game. It's extremely windy and extremely cold. Grebner back to throw. Screens it out. DISHROOM had nowhere to go. He may have lost a yard on the play. Eric LACNY staying home. It's going to be 3rd down, 4th down and 9 with 2:26 remaining in the game.
You know, Jim, that's a curious call right there. You need to get some positive yards. Instead of trying to throw the ball downfield, he turns and throws the ball sideways. With his ability to run, you would almost have liked to see Jared pull it down and try and run around the end, going away from the pressure.
Metamora has all 3 of their timeouts, but they are going to go on 4th down and 9. Toss back to the quarterback. That may have been a lateral. The ball goes out of bounds. Let's see what the officials rule. Indeed, they do rule that it was a lateral. Providence will take over on the Metamora 8-yard line. And with 1:55 remaining here in the 4th quarter, the Providence Celtics certainly look like they are on their way to their 3rd straight state title. DISHROOM was tossing it back to Grebner.
You know, the play wasn't very well disguised. And Jimmy, if it had been a good toss, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. So it was basically a waste of play.
Now Providence will try and put this game away. Each team with 3 timeouts remaining. MEDINA stacked up at the line of scrimmage, maybe picked up a yard. Brian Murphy making the stop. And Metamora will use the first of their 3 timeouts. 1:43 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Providence looking like they're on their way to a 42nd straight victory. Matt Senfner and the Providence Catholic Celtics about to win their third straight state title. Matt Senfner has been at Providence since 1968. It took him until 1987 to raise his coaching record above 500. Since that time, in the last 10 years, Senfner's teams are 100 games over 500, which means they average getting into the second round of the state playoffs at least for the last 10 years. Medina with the carry down to the 6. The state record, in case you are wondering, for consecutive wins in football, Pittsfield won 58 games in a row. So in order to get that record, Providence would have to go undefeated next season and go into the 1998 season undefeated for 2 games to get the state record. Medina gets the handoff. He'll take it down to the 5 before he's stopped, and that is going to bring up 4th down. Brian Murphy with the tackle. It may not be over yet. Metamora will use another timeout. There's the record in the last 10 years of Providence for Matt Senfner. It'll be 100 games over 500 in the last 10 years. And absolutely incredible the job he has done at Providence. This will be, if they can finish off this game tonight, it's not only their 3rd straight state title, but it will be their 5th state title in the last 10 years. And Pat Ryan's team, they still have a chance at this thing. It is 4th down. And remember, we talked about the fact that Providence can indeed, one thing we haven't seen here this year so far in these games is teams that come in with a field goal kicker that can actually make field goals. And Billy Schuld will come into the game. His long of the year is 47. Right now, he is going to attempt a 27-yard field goal with the win. Trying to give his team a 10-point lead. Blocked at the line of scrimmage. Metamora is still going to have a chance if they can pick up the football. Cruz nearly picked it up and almost recovered for Providence, but now Metamora is going to get the football. They have 43 seconds remaining. They have 1 timeout. Ron, throughout this game, when Schuld has been kicking extra points, they've been low. A couple of them nearly blocked. This one was indeed knocked down.
You know, Jim, that's absolutely right. Everybody that has kicked the ball today has kicked the ball low and hard because of the weather, because of that fact. Kickers cannot get a good placement on the ground and kick through the ball.
Right in the middle of the line is where the block came from. And that pass batted down at the line of scrimmage. 2nd down coming up. Eric Steinbach there to knock it down. So if Providence is going to win this game, the defense is going to have to come through here. They've got a little bit of a cushion considering they have 87 yards of the field to defend.
Well, you know, Jim, this is what Coach Ryan didn't want it to come down to, and that was his team having to pass the ball for the victory. They're a good, solid option team, but passing is not their forte.
And one of the reasons why Pat Ryan took the win in the 3rd quarter is he knew if he could build up a lead, he'd be in a lot better shape than trying to play from behind in the 4th quarter. Incomplete again. That pass intended for Matt Vogelsang. 35 seconds remaining here in the 4th quarter. And back to the kicking game in high school. A lot of the problem isn't the fact that the coaches don't trust their kickers, and that's why they don't try out field goals. It's they don't trust their long snappers and their holders.
Exactly, Jim. That's a big part of it. Not like the NFL where it's almost automatic. There's a high risk between the snap, the hold, and the kick.
3rd down. Grebner back to toss, goes over the middle, has his man. First down for Metamora. The reception made by Jeff Seckler, just his 6th reception of the year. It's an 18-yard pickup. The clock will start as soon as the chains are set. Jared Grebner with only 2 passing touchdowns this season. Either way, no matter which team the penalty is on, it helps out Metamora because the clock stops.
Should be against the defense. Looked like the defense jumped the snap.
Dead ball. Encroachment green, 5 yards.
Every little bit helps. And a timeout used by Providence. Well, here we are again, final minute of play, and it's not over yet. Metamora still with 1 timeout remaining.
You know, with Metamora still having the timeout remaining, they become very dangerous with the option of throwing the ball over the middle. They don't have to worry about trying to run the ball out of bounds. Plus, they complete one over the middle that's going to get them 15 or 20 yards. They're going to get the automatic timeout for the chains to be moved. So it's not a bad idea to use the middle of the field and use the whole field as an option as far as throwing the football is concerned.
And Ron, the object here for the offense, is it not, is to just get the ball down where they can take a pitch at the end zone with a few seconds remaining.
Exactly, especially with the wind in their face. So the idea for them is to throw the ball, move the chains. As long as the chains are moving, they're okay.
If Providence can withstand the charge for 26 seconds, they'll have their 3rd state title in a row. Grebner, hook and lateral, and Allen able to get out of bounds, but it does not look like he got the first down. Guys are a little nervous over there on the Providence sideline.
I'll tell you what, he got a tough spot there from the referee because it looked from this angle that he did get that first down.
It may have hurt him, Ron, as he had the ball in the proper hand, the left hand, as he went out of bounds. He did get the first down, however. So now that's one less thing for Metamora to worry about. 20 seconds remaining. Providence Catholic coming down here with the big reputation, one of the top teams in the state, and Metamora staying right with them. Grebner dropped the ball on the turf. The Celtics have it, and that ought to do it. Grebner can't believe that he couldn't come up with the football. Peter Demise, number 67, a senior who is not a starter, but like all the seniors in this game playing in his final high school football contest, came up with the recovery. And Matt Sempner reminding his team that Metamora has just 1 timeout to burn. Sempner sees the ball go to the turf. Grebner just never got a clean exchange. And you see the reaction by Medina and the rest of the Providence offenses. And look at Robert Cruz, how much is he in the game right away, getting the play call for first down.
I'll tell you what, with the fact that Metamora's only got 1 timeout, if they don't take a knee twice, well, stranger things have happened with the football because of the way it bounces.
8 turnovers in this game, which is something you might expect for as bad as the rain and wind have been in this game. Ed Olsta is lined up at his own 48-yard line in case something goes wrong with the kneel down. Cruz will kneel once. Metamora should call timeout, but it doesn't look like they're going to. For the 42nd game in a row, the Providence Celtics will walk off with a victory, and in this game, it's even a little more special. 3 state titles in a row. The seniors on this team have not lost a football game as varsity players Providence wins it 28-21. The Metamora Redbirds fell behind in this game 14-0. They stayed in it, they did not panic. They took a lead of 21-14 before Providence came back and won it. Tim Tehan, the only senior on the offensive line, came back from practice the first day. His father said, "How's your offensive line?" He said, "Dad, we don't have one yet." But Tom Lenahan, Rob STAZAK, Jason KALINA, and Colin Johnson, all underclassmen, learned in a hurry, and the offensive line was one of the main reasons why MEDINA was able to run for over 2,700 yards, and Cruz was able to throw for nearly 2,300. 28-21, the final score, as the Providence Celtics will leave Hancock Stadium for the third year in a row as state champions. We'll be back with the trophy presentation right after this timeout. The Providence Catholic Celtics, 3 years without a loss, 5 state titles in the last 10 years, and they are about to receive the trophy they've been pointing toward since the humid days of August when they reported for two-a-days.
You know, Jim, you know what we saw was a real good effort by both clubs. Unfortunately, somebody's got to lose. I thought the Redbirds played a very valiant game, especially after turning the ball over twice early in the first quarter, sticking to their game plans, actually taking the lead in the third quarter, but Providence just being too strong of a running team.
Providence coming from behind in 2 championship games in a row. Last year, they were a first down away by Sacred Heart Griffin from being put away, but they came up with 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes of the game to take their second state title. Tonight, they came from behind again to make it 3 in a row. And the Metamora Redbirds are now receiving a very hard-earned runner-up trophy in Class 4A.
Coach Ryan and his team captains by Mr. Bradley.
You may be seeing Matt Vogelsang again in IHSA play. He's an all-conference baseball player, one of the best baseball players in the state on the football field today. He gets to walk off the field knowing there was only one team in the entire state better than his Metamora Redbirds.
Now the second place trophy will be presented to the Redbirds of Metamora, who finished the season with a final record of 13 wins and 1 loss. Presenting the trophy is Mr. Bradley.
How tough is it that you go through the regular season undefeated, and the only game you lose is the final game of the year when it's for everything?
Well, I tell you, those guys are feeling really down, but you know, they should keep their heads up because they got here. They got where everybody else wanted to be, and they were one of 12. They got a chance
Next
to play
will
for a championship.
Principal Reverend John Merkellis, Coach Matt Seffner, and the captains of state champion Providence High School. Please join the presenters on the awards platform.
Louis Medina, what a great career. Matt Uremovich fits in that category as well. Robert Cruz, number 10.
This is the 3rd consecutive state championship for the Celtics.
Not only is Providence a championship team on the football field, they're also a championship team off the field as well. Among the graduation requirements at Providence High School, if you're a junior in the school, you have to perform 20 hours of community service. You can do that either things around school or in the community. Or or I should say, and when you're a senior, you have to perform 25 hours outside of the school. So not only are these players getting the job done on the field, they're getting it done in the community as well. As a matter of fact, what a lot of these players do is they are coaches in youth football in New Lenox. And there are two main teams in youth football in New Lenox, the Mustangs and the Stallions, and some of the players for Providence coach on either team. And Matt Senfner says that these guys take this coaching so seriously that in the week of a big game in youth football, they are very guarded in what they say to each other, their own teammates, is to not give secrets away for the youth football game.
Well, that's competition.
13 wins and no losses. Presenting the championship trophy is Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins, if you please.
Well, for years in the Chicagoland area, when you talked about the great high school football teams, you would hear names such as Mount Carmel and St. Rita, Loyola, schools such as that. But now certainly, and for the last 3 or 4 years, you have had to include the Providence Celtics. Matt Senfner knows his school does not have the tradition of some of those institutions that have been there for a long, long time, but Providence is rapidly approaching that kind of reputation, and we'll see two schools in that same vein tomorrow in the 5A game when Joliet Catholic takes on Mount Carmel.
You know, Jim, again, when you start winning championships like they've done at Providence 3 years in a row, hey, you've built that same tradition. You deserve to be in the same class of people like that.
When we come back, we will hear from the 3-time state championship coach of the Providence Celtics. Providence wins at 28-21. The Providence Celtics, 42 wins in a row, 3 state titles, and Yvonne is standing by with the architect of all these championships, Matt Senfner.
Coach Senfner, first of all, congratulations, 3 titles in a row. You were tied at 14-14. Metamora went ahead 21-14. Your offense got the ball and kicked it up into the next gear.
We sure did. We had a great opportunity right off the bat. We made the adjustments. We were already, at the halftime, and then we came out and we just gave up the possession on the kickoff. And it's just incredible conditions over here. Just incredible conditions today. But I think we had more turnovers than we had all year. But I couldn't be happier for the kids the way everything turned out. They did. The offensive line then took it upon themselves to keep things going. And Coach Dave Burns picked a couple of things up as far as our passing game is concerned. We ran a nice flanker screen to get us a nice big first down, and we just moved the ball downfield. We're getting our what we call our dump routes. They were really keying on Louis MEDINA. So we did a nice job. And then our defense, just once we started coming back, the defense picked it up, and you could just feel the momentum swing.
I was going to say about your defense, one of your assistants, Coach Tillman, told the defense after Metamora scored, they will not score again. He very intently told them that, and they kept their end of the bargain.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. It was they did a great job. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be prouder of the way our defense played today against a very, very tough Metamora team. And they got the potential for a big play, at any second. And it's we just came through, especially when it came to crunch time.
Let's talk about the history of your ball club. 3 undefeated state titles. What does this mean for the seniors? They've gone undefeated in varsity play.
Well, I think that we've talked about this a number of times, and we talked about it especially on Wednesday night after practice, and the kids, or Thursday on Thanksgiving Day, we talked about it, and what it was going to mean to get that title and go undefeated 2 years in a row. We talked about it, never going to have that opportunity again. We're only seniors here once. And this was their state championship, and just don't be denied. And I think that was they just grabbed the bull by the horns and just went after it.
Well, congratulations again. You have a great ball club both on the field and off, and you can tell by their leader that they're following that example.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you very much.
Jim and Ron, back to you.
And Yvonne Simmons speaks the truth too about Matt Senfner. And 2 years ago, when Providence won their first of these 3 state titles, right after the game, Matt Senfner challenged his underclassmen to keep it going, to see if they could match the senior class. He probably had no idea that the sophomores sitting in that room would not only match the feat of that team that played their final game in 1994, but they would go on, Ron, to extend the winning streak to 42 straight games.
Well, you look at what they had, and that was a very veteran team with the exception of their offensive line. They had a veteran backfield that made a lot of good decisions today. Sure, there were a lot of turnovers, but I'll tell you, Robert Cruz, to me, did probably as good a quarterbacking job as I've seen all day today. He made a lot of good decisions, made a lot of good reads, and because of his leadership and Louis Medina taking over at certain times in this football game, they won, and that's why this team basically won 3 titles because of the senior leadership.
Well, everybody's going to have to update the jackets at Providence High School because one of the more popular jackets, and you see it on the young lady standing to the left of the screen, on the back it says 28-0. Well, they're going to have to get those fixed now. See the 28-0 back-to-back. So anybody who's coming back to Providence for a senior next year, that's the amazing thing, is if they can keep this going, the people who were freshmen when all this started now have a chance to see if they can bump that up to 56-0 before they get out of there a long way down the road. Let's take a look at the second half highlights now from this game. Remember, it was tied 14-14 at the half. Metamora came back and took the lead. Jared Grebner is going to go to Allen for his second touchdown of the game.
You know, this was a real good throw and a real good catch. He had beat the defender all the way down. Grebner saw him, laid it up there for the touch.
But Providence came right back. Robert Cruz pulls it down, runs into the end zone for the touchdown. Providence decided to go for 2, Ron. They did not make it.
Bad decision here by Cruz, one of the few bad decisions he made. You can't pump fake on a half roll. Why? Because when you pump fake, you give the defenders a chance to catch up to you.
But the next time Providence got the ball, they took it into the fourth quarter. Cruz is going to roll out, and again, decides to take it in himself. Providence had the lead, 26-21. This time, they get the 2-point conversion.
Well, he makes a quick decision then to turn and throw to his fullback who's wide open in the end zone, the 2-point conversion.
Providence still leading 28-21, and it looked like they were going to drive their way for another score to put away the game. Ed Olsta making a nice play on the flanker screen, taping it deep into Metamora territory, but right as it appeared that Providence was going to put the ball game away, Medina had it knocked out of his hands, and ELBERT came up with a big fumble recovery, but Metamora, it was really too much to expect in too little time. They had to try and cover 97 yards for a touchdown, and Providence ends up coming out of this game with a 28-21 victory. And one thing Matt Sempner pointed out to us prior to the game was the fact that he does not think that his seniors have any idea the magnitude of what they accomplished. He thinks it's going to take between 10 and 15 years before they really get an appreciation for what they have accomplished as high school players.
You know, Jim, when you get into those situations where you look back on your career, that's when you personally really begin to appreciate it. But what they've done is they've helped to set a cornerstone for success at Providence, and Providence is going to be able to build and continue to grow on this for years to come as far as becoming a high school power here in the state of Illinois. 4
great state championship games today that all went down into the final minute. Tomorrow we'll keep it going with the 5A and 6A title games. Ron and I will be here at noon. Mount Carmel against Joliet Catholic in the 5A title game. Mount Carmel, many people think, may be the best team in the state, but the same thing a lot of people are saying about Lincoln Way. They'll take on the defending 6A champions from Wheaton Warrenville South. That's in the 6A game coming up at 2:30. Tonight's 4A game was produced and directed by Tim Sutton. Our associate producer is Big Matt Luke. The production manager is Sheila Brown. The vice president of programming at Sports Channel is Mike Bogad. Remote facilities provided by those good-looking guys at Trio Video of Chicago. Once again, our final score in the 4A title game. Providence 28, Metamora 21. For Yvonne Simmons and Ron Rivera, I'm Jim Blaney saying goodbye for now. The proceeding has been a co-production of Sports Channel and Intersport Television.